Well, the FBI sent enough firepower to Roger Stone's house on Friday to overthrow a third world government. His arrest is, needless to say, being taken as proof that Russia stole America's lunch money or burned our toast or egged our cars or subverted our democracy or something. This past weekend, as she often has, Nancy Pelosi speculated that Russia must have something on the president.
What do the Russians have on Donald Trump? Politically, personally, or financially? What is Putin blackmailing President Trump with? Personally, politically, or financially? So again, I ask the question, what do the Russians have on Donald Trump? Politically, personally, or financially? The Russians must have something personally, politically, or financially on President Trump.
Over on PBS, Eric Swalwell of California claimed that Trump is a proven Russian agent. Couldn't explain quite how. Here's the exchange.
At what point do you draw the line and not accuse the President of the United States without any evidence of being an agent of Russia?
Yeah, he's betrayed our country, and I don't say that lightly. I worked as a prosecutor for 7 years, and
But betraying the country, by the way, we want evidence before you say that, but you said an agent of Russia.
Yeah, he works on their behalf. After it was revealed that the Russians were attacking our democracy, he went to a press conference and said, Russia, keep doing it.
So we're familiar with that sequence of events. As a prosecutor, but as a prosecutor, that wouldn't be evidence in court. I mean, as a prosecutor, you know the difference between hard evidence and circumstantial evidence. I'm not hearing the evidence that he's an agent of Russia.
Yeah, I think it's pretty clear. It's almost hiding in plain sight.
Hiding in plain sight. So does Roger Stone's indictment prove once and for all that all these people are agents of Vladimir Putin? Glenn Greenwald co-founded The Intercept, and he joins us tonight. Glenn, do you think, can we say now conclusively that the Russian collusion narrative is true in the wake of this indictment of Roger Stone?
No, it actually demonstrates, if anything, the opposite. But let me just address those horrific McCarthyite clips that you just played from Nancy Pelosi and Eric Swalwell claiming that Trump is controlled by the Kremlin, something that we heard throughout the 50s and 60s lodged against Democrats with the same amount of evidence, which was none. In almost every important instance, including right now in Venezuela, giving arms to the Ukrainians who are opposed to the Russians, bombing the Russian client state in Syria, imposing incredibly harsh sanctions on Russian oligarchs, Trump has acted contrary to the interest of the Kremlin, the most important example of which is probably Trump's very vehement denunciations of the Germans for buying natural gas from Russia, one of their most important exports on which their economy depends, rather than buying it from the U.S. Really weird behavior for somebody who is being blackmailed by Vladimir Putin. He keeps doing exactly the opposite of what Putin wants. The Roger Stone indictment is like all of the other Mueller indictments, and that is the number of people that Mueller has indicted for what the original Mueller letter said he was supposed to find out, namely whether there was criminal coordination between the Trump campaign on the one hand and Russian government on the other hand with respect to the 2016 election. That number is 0. That was the number before Roger Stone's indictment. That continues to be the number after. It's not an investigation that's complete, but it's coming up on 2 years. It's like a year and 8 months. I don't know what the future holds. Maybe Mueller will someday indict people for that. So maybe he'll cure cancer. But as a journalist, all I can do is say what has happened up until this point. And up until this point, there have been 0 indictments on that core question.
So very quick, why would, if the Mueller people send dozens of armed agents to the house of an unarmed middle-aged man to do something that could have been done through lawyers, why does nobody in the press say, wait a second, that seems overkill?
I mean, the CNN was not only not objecting, they were super excited by it. They sent one of their correspondents who has connections with her, I think even worked for the FBI, to cover it like it was the OJ chase. And I think that this has been one of the problems is the press has completely given up its adversarial role when it comes to questioning prosecutorial power, what the CIA does, what the FBI does. Robert Mueller is almost like this godlike figure. And as long as you do abuses to people they don't like Roger Stone, they'll sit and cheer.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. We should push back, and I hope that I have enough integrity to push back when the next prosecutor does it to someone I don't like. I really do. Glenn Greenwald, thank you very much.
Thanks,
Richard Goodstein is a lawyer and a former advisor to Bill and Hillary Clinton, and he joins us tonight. So I just can't resist. Nancy Pelosi and Eric Swalwell are telling me, and I know them both, that now we have the goods. The indictment of Roger Stone, which to the untrained eye has nothing to do with Russian collusion, but to the Russia collusion truthers is proof positive. What am I missing about this indictment?
Just two quick things. First of all, we had evidence of collusion from Paul Manafort's lawyers when he disclosed secret polling data to Russian military intelligence. So that's collusion right there. That enabled Russia, if they were so inclined, and there's evidence that they were, that they could identify what the swing voters were and where and go after them. And the intelligence community in the U.S. says that's exactly what they did. Okay?
The intelligence, there is no intelligence community.
Okay, sorry, every intelligence agency.
No, there are not.
Well, there aren't. So you even dispute the fact that they're intelligence agencies. I bet all your viewers take issue with that.
There's no intelligence community. There are not 17 separate intelligence.
I didn't say 17.
These are all talking points.
No.
There's no consensus on anything. I mean, in real life. We still don't know. There's no consensus on who hacked Podesta's emails as of tonight.
Yeah.
So, let's stop pretending that we know things we don't.
The other thing that's striking about this, and I heard your guest earlier in this show, is that vehemence about how Roger Stone was treated, about how horrible Mueller is. Have we seen 1 ounce of that addressed by Donald Trump or his minions towards the Russians for interfering with our election? I would say the answer is no. And that basically proves to me what Nancy Pelosi is saying, which is something's going on. Why would there be 100 contacts and not one of the more than a dozen Trump people? Why do they lie time after time after time?
Ask you as an American, because they really are two separate questions, Russian interference and what the federal government just did to Roger Stone. But just as an American and someone presumably who cares about civil liberties, are you okay with that? I mean, here's a guy who was not a flight risk, who they've been investigating, they've been spying on him for over a year. He couldn't destroy evidence. It's ridiculous. Are you okay with sending dozens of armed people to his house to roust him barefoot? Does that bother you at all?
Yeah, so the evidence is there weren't dozens. They may have been a dozen. I think I discount what Roger Stone says as a general matter.
But I saw the tape that they set up with CNN.
Oh, yeah, there were very heavily armed people.
Why would you need an automatic weapon to arrest Roger Stone?
First of all, I don't know that Mueller is the one who says have this many people as opposed to 2 or 3x. Secondly, the fact is, I think Mueller's probably a little sick of what he got from Paul Manafort, which was attempts to destroy evidence and obstruct justice and change people's testimony. And he saw evidence that Roger Stone was doing the exact same thing. So that's where you go, you know what, I've had it.
So is it a prosecutor's job to punish people preemptively?
Not punish, but make sure they don't do it again.
So intimidate and frighten citizens so they obey.
No, you freeze him so he can't do with his electronic equipment.
They brought him in and they let him out on bail in like 10 minutes. Well, they did this to scare the crap out of him and to tell the rest of us that if you disobey this unelected God figure whose power is uncontested by anybody. No, I'm serious. Well, then we're going to hurt you. That's what they're doing.
He's not elected, but he does have he's a Republican. All the supervisors are Republicans, and the voters ultimately elected the people.
Who can fire him?
Well, right now the Attorney General could. Right, the acting Attorney General could.
What would happen? Because Democrats say if you fire him, you'll be impeached immediately. So this is someone who Democrats say has no oversight by an elected official.
Well,
does that bother you? That seems like the opposite of democracy.
Congress actually has oversight over the Justice Department. They fund it. They can bring people in for questioning.
What would happen if you tried to fire Robert Mueller?
What do you think would happen?
I think you'd be accused of working for Vladimir Putin. I don't think you guys are for democracy at all.
Again, I worked for somebody who actually stood up to Richard Nixon around Watergate, and that's
it was a different time. You were at the Washington Post. We're out of time, unfortunately. Richard Goodstein, great to see you.
Thank you.
Thank you.